Hey, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Empowerment Through Encouragement. And you can't make this stuff up. Um, I should have called this uh, message or this session "Challenges with the Internet." And because I'm doing this, turning difficulties into transformation, I actually had to experience my own presentation. So this morning, I've just given to give you a little background here. Um, this morning, I pull up my computer, turn it on, and it's doing a reboot, restart, and everything's coming up except Chrome. And that's the program, the platform that I have to use. Now, I know that LinkedIn has already canceled this. So for those of you that are faithful watchers and listeners, congratulations. Stick with me. Thank you for continuing to engage. And I'm going to continue on now as I turn this difficulty into a transformation. Now, life doesn't leave us without challenges. I've already discovered that out. So about 7:45 this morning, when this was scheduled for 8 o'clock, I'm thinking, okay, there's a couple other programs that got to kick on because there was an update that took place last night when I turned my computer on. Got plenty of time. 8 o'clock comes, 8:01, 8:15, and that's when things get canceled. And so sometimes life has a different plan. The day has a different plan. It didn't turn out the way that we, number one, expected, number two, anticipated, or number three, we're really ready for because there wasn't a backup plan. Like I can't just go to another scenario or another outlet to produce what it was that I had intended. Now, I have two choices. I can let it wreck my day or I can laugh it off. And I'm going to say, do the latter, laugh it off and turn this difficulty and go ask yourself the question, why is this happening for me? What was it that I needed to do? So, one of the first things that I did was as I was waiting for my computer to come up, I have an under the desk treadmill and I just turned it up to 2.6 miles an hour. And I got in about uh, almost a mile in that time as I was waiting. And it was just transferring my energy into another area. And if you've been with me for the last several weeks, you know that those of us with ADD can kind of get hyper focused on different things. And sometimes when we get hyper focused on those things, we can expand them and enlarge them. And what it does is it can kind of take over. Now, I know that everybody, there's no exemptions. We have a bad day. Everybody has a bad day. It's what you do with that. Now, as a brain health coach, I've seen time and time again where people take their difficult situation and they expand it, they make it grow. It's like, one of those, the Chia Pet. I don't know if you remember that. Maybe I'm dating myself here, but it was just this little clay thing and it had holes in it. And you put water on it and the grass grew. And it was a Chia Pet, it just grew. Well, sometimes that's what can happen. And when you're dealing with an extra element such as ADD, you can allow those little ants to build up and they create a mountain. And eventually, as we ruminate those thoughts, we allow those moments to take over. Now, what I want to say is that those moments of difficulty, those moments of trial, those moments of challenge, they don't define you. The reality is that they're just moments. They're not your whole story. And I want you to think of every difficult experience that you have as a piece of information. It's just a little bit of data. Now, all the data doesn't really determine what you're going to do. And we know that sometimes data is wrong. And so if we're bringing in these thoughts based on a current experience, then we could actually define the day and really have it discombobulated. It's not an accurate setting. It's not an accurate data. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with your child. If you're dealing with ADD or your child has ADD, there's nothing wrong with you or there's nothing wrong with your child. What we can do is we can provide clarity and a path to create something better. See, it's kind of like being a detective of your own life. So you ask the question, why did this happen? And what led to this moment of this experience? And by navigating through these patterns, because patterns leave clues and patterns create habits. And so if we change our pattern on our thought process, then we're going to get a different reward, a different habit is going to be formed, and we can begin to gain control. And control comes with the ability to transform those moments. So take a moment and ask yourself, what happened today? Now, here again, I shared this earlier. What happened today? It was just a moment. The computer did an update. It was beyond my control. And when it kept saying, can't connect, and I'm watching the time, I had two choices. I could throw my computer and put it in the trash. Then I'd be in the store buying a new computer and have to reload everything. Or I could just pause and say, what else am I supposed to be thinking about? How am I supposed to connect with my audience? And when in the very moment that I'm experiencing this, you can relate to this. Now, I hope you're laughing about this because I am laughing about this. I'm like, why did I name it this title? Why did I give it this title of difficulties into transformation? Why did I give it that title? Couldn't it have been like, don't worry, be happy? Something like that. And maybe you've had that day. Maybe you've had a couple of those days. Maybe it was just an off day at school. Maybe you or your child were a little sensitive or reactive. And it's when we react instead of respond that's when things kind of get mixed up. So what was the quality, what was the quality of my sleep? Thankfully, I got a great night's sleep. Now, if I hadn't, I would have been blaming myself. I would have been going, this always happens. I would have been going through those automatic negative thoughts. And I had a fantastic meal last night. So when things start to go disarray, ask yourself a few questions. How did I sleep last night? What did I eat the night before? What's propelling me? What's giving me the energy that I'm expressing today? Did I move enough yesterday? Well, like I told you, what was the first thing that I did was okay, I'm going to pull out my walking treadmill. It's right under my desk. And I'm just going to walk. And it's movement that creates the endorphins and changes what's happening, the chemistry in my brain. And it's saying, let's exercise this energy. Let's utilize this. Let's lower the cortisol, because as I'm watching the timer and I know that LinkedIn is going to cancel the show, and I'll just have to put the link in and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I asked myself, did I move enough yesterday? Did I move enough in the last few days? And did I take my supplements or my medication at a certain time? Now, these are questions that are the foundation that can help you kind of be that detective. You become the inspector, the investigator of your own experience. And as you move from reaction to reflection, ultimately, this creates transformation. It isn't about assigning blame or finding fault. It's about understanding what's going on in our mind, how we interact, how we respond to the environment, to the stimuli that's around us. And those factors actually control our mood, they change our behavior, and they ultimately adjust our focus. So sometimes if I have my hand right up in front of my face, The only thing that I can see is my hand. But if I back away from that just a little bit, now I begin to see the peripheral. Now I begin to see what's around my hand. I begin to see more than just that issue that's right up in my face. So as I began to distance myself from that and just step back just for a moment, I began to find answers that create lasting changes. Now, how does that have anything to do with me having the computer issue? It was out of my control. So that's the other question that I have to ask. Was this situation in my control? When my child wakes up and he's had a bad night's sleep, maybe he didn't eat so well, and maybe there was some issues going on at school. He had a test that he didn't do so well in, and all these things, when he wakes up, now he's thinking about them again, or he's thinking about the test that he's going to be taking. So there's a little anxiousness, a little anxiety. I could have had some anxiety going on, but I chose not to. I chose to just reflect and say, what is this for? And for me this morning, as I said earlier, it was for me to have authority in this particular message, in this particular episode that I'm sharing with you. Because if I can't apply my own medicine, then I'm a fake. And it's when you deal with that, instead of letting it deal with you, that's when you take back the control. You can laugh about it, and everything changes. Everything gets better. So it's so tempting to just throw our hands up and say, this isn't working. I'm just going to go cancel the show. I'm going to go cancel going to school. I'm going to call in sick. I'm just not going to go and do those things. It's just take a moment and breathe, take a few minutes. And at the end of this episode, I want to share with you some of those points, some of those little things that you could do to kind of diffuse that challenge, that tragedy, that difficulty, whatever it is that's going on in your day. I remember many times my son would say to me at a very, very early young age, he said, "This is the worst day of my life." And, I wanted to say, hey, just wait, they get better. There's a whole lot more worse days coming. But I didn't do that. And I'm like, well, why is this the worst day of your life? And he would share with me, and kind of, inside I was kind of smiling, because I know as a parent, as an adult, and as somebody that deals with ADD, I know that those thoughts are those automatic negative thoughts, because we try to control life. And I want to encourage you that as you lean into that discomfort of the worst day of your life, I want you to just laugh it off. Just smile. Just say, you know what? There's nothing I can do about it. If you fail the test, nothing you can do about it. That test does not define you. And I want to say that again. There is no single event in your life that defines you. So take this with a grain of salt. And these are moments that give us the most potential growth, because as we dissect it, it becomes like that GPS. And everybody has a GPS on their phone. And I remember I used to have a GPS in my car. It was a TomTom, and I'd program in where I was going to go. And it didn't always tell me in a long distance before I needed to be in the lane that I needed to be in when I was on an 8-lane or 7-lane highway, 6-lane highway. And I could be in the opposite lane and I needed to get over, and I missed my exit. And what happened was the TomTom, it started going, okay, reprogramming, rerouting. And it would take me up the road just a little bit further. Now, in that moment, I felt stuck. I felt like I needed to get on that exit and go that way. And now I'm going out of my way. And that's what happens in our mind. So when you ask yourself, when you're starting to feel stuck or discouraged, ask yourself, what shifted? What's different? How come I'm in this lane And although um, it wasn't a pleasurable experience always when you got to drive 5 miles to the next exit and then drive 5 miles to get back where you would have been. It's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for you to take something that's minimal, even if you're going to be late to someplace. And most places, unless you go to a doctor's appointment and you're late, and then they say, well, we can't help you, except you go there and you wait 15, 20 minutes, and that's okay. But we can't justify it. So if we're late, we're late. Life happens, and it's not the end of the world. So your journey's not over just because you have a single detour. So I want to encourage you, whatever it is that you're experiencing, your journey's not over just because you have a single detour. You get the breakup, okay? You get an extra diagnosis that, hey, you know what? You're sick and you got to stay home for 3 days. Well, I can't stay home for 3 days. Well, what can you do in those 3 days that could actually make being sick that much better? So your journey's not over with a single detour. You're simply taking a different route, and it will get you where you want to go. It just might take a few moments longer. The truth is, transformation does not happen in the absence of difficulty. Everybody needs a formidable foe. Now, when I say that, what I'm saying is that if you go to the gym and you just look at the weights don't make you any stronger unless you use them. And it is in the resistance where you can't pick them up anymore that's when your body is gaining the strength. It's not in the first 3 or 4 reps. I mean, that's pretty easy. But you get to doing 9, 10, 11, 15, or 20. Now that's when the growth happens. So if we look at it like that, now we've had a detour. Now we're going to go into this. What is this transformation? How is the process of this transformation taking place? It happens in the difficulties, and it teaches us resiliency. You see, it gives us the information, as I said earlier, as we take this little bit of information and we bring it in as an element into our experience, then we begin to put these things together. And as we take this data and this data, now we have an understanding. And so when our child is experiencing something, or we're experiencing something, let's just pull up some of the data of our own life, not outside of us, not going to Dr. Google, but taking each of these elements and bringing them together and go, oh yeah, that's why that happened. Well, why did my computer work the way that it was? Well, it needed an update. It's beyond my control. I don't control those things. So when things are outside of my control, I have to detach from the definition that it's doing. I couldn't do anything different. I could have shut it off 5 times and it wouldn't have changed. It actually would have delayed the process. And as I'm watching that ball spin, I'm going, what in the world? So what do I do? So the next time when I have this issue, when I have this scenario, okay, of an 8 o'clock show, I want to make sure that at 6 o'clock when I wake up, is that rather than get my supplements in and get my water in, I come over and make sure that the computer turns on. If there's any updates, that gives it the 2 hours, not the 45 minutes, which I thought was ample time. So as I keep this journal in my mind, it becomes kind of a fun thing, and it prevents me from this happening again. And this is one of the things that I recommend people do is make a journal. So if you're working with me as a client and you tell me you've got brain fog, you've got anxiety, you've got all these things, I say, I want you to keep a journal for the next 7 days. Now, I want you to write down how much you've drank, how much water you've drank, what other things have you brought into your body that are in a liquid form? What did you eat? what was your mood on each of those days? And what was your sleep like? And when we take just those few elements, now we can dissect it and we can go, okay, so when you are eating poorly, you're indulging in, let's say you went to two graduation parties or you went to two parties back to back. We've got the seasons coming up where we're going to be being at different houses eating different food, and they bring those foods that you don't normally eat and you want to indulge. I want to say, note what you're eating, note what you're drinking, and note the environment that you're around, because sometimes family get-togethers are just like World War III being developed within a small confine. And it happens. And so as you journal these things down, now you don't blame yourself. You don't go into that shaming and guilt over feeling what you're feeling, but you bring these elements in and you become your detective. And now you can break that down and you go, okay, so if I'm going to go to that family reunion and they've got those buttermilk cookies, the ones that I really, really love, I'm going to have to limit myself and I'm going to have to become accountable. I'm going to write down, not just think about it, but write it down, how many dozen I ate and what it made me feel like the next day. And is it worth it? That's the thing. So when you have ADD, these are some of the experiences that take place. And we don't, as a child, I mean, I never understood about journaling. I never understood about taking an inventory of what was happening at school, what was happening at home, and what I was eating, and how I was sleeping, and how I was interacting, and what my morning started like, and what my afternoon ended like. I didn't have those tools. So this can be a fun work. I'm not a big fan of homework. I think homework is kind of ridiculous. It's just work that you weren't able to get done in school. So I say, let's turn it into fun work. Let's become our investigator. Let's become that Sherlock Holmes and think about what it was that we can bring together and say, that's the problem. I'm not the problem. That is the problem. And as we structure it that way, now we get insights that become powerful. And insights being applied become even more powerful. And then as we take those insights, then we're able to make small, manageable changes that lead to big transformations. So here's what I want to say. Up to this point, if you take a huge jump, it's going to wear you out to try to make that huge jump. You may or may not succeed, but if you take small steps towards that same destination, now you save your energy, you actually maximize your energy, and you can build on past successes. So it is the one short step that is so much more productive than trying to take a huge leap. It's kind of like going into business for yourself and buying all of the accessories and not even having a single customer. But if you build customers over a period of time, now you can start to add to the inventory. You can start to add to the size of the building. It's the same way as a child. As you begin to note these things, these difficulties, and take an inventory, you're actually building success. So for the parents, I want to say this is a critical experience, a critical role that you can play in this journey. And I call it a journey. There's not a destination. Being better is not a destination. It's a journey. It's a process. It's a long-term marathon. It's an endless marathon without a specific destiny or destination. You're fulfilling your destiny as you go, and you're dreaming and you're remembering these things and you're navigating, and you can celebrate them. Difficult days don't define your future. They don't define anything about your ability to parent as well. I remember there were times when I just wanted to throw my hands up and go, man, I can't do this. This is just, I don't know what else I can do for you, my friend. And I was talking to myself. I was looking in the mirror. And then I paused and I just stepped back and I said, is this really that big of a deal? Well, sure, you can come up with reasons and say, yeah, this is the worst day of my life. But what if the worst day of your life was actually the pinnacle of your beginning? See, we look at life as this roller coaster, highs and lows, but actually it's not like that because we're never in the same spot that we were at any other time. We may feel that way, but we've actually gained ground. And it's amazing that if you could actually have your life on a graph, you'd see that those difficulties actually brought you up to another level that you wouldn't have been prepared for. So it's by modeling resilience and getting curious. I can't stress that enough. Getting curious, having self-compassion, showing your child how to thrive even when things don't go as planned. And this is just one of those things. And instead of telling them that they're okay, ask them, are you okay with this? And what if we could be okay with it? What would that look like? So far, what I want to share with you is, remember, every difficult day is a chance to learn. Every difficult situation is a chance to learn. It's a chance to adjust, to grow, and to accelerate. Now imagine you're sitting in the parking lot and you put one foot on the brake and one foot on the gas. Well, tires spin, makes smoke. It's kind of cool looking, but it's wearing out your tires. Well, sometimes we just need to take our foot off the gas and keep our foot on the brake and say, what is it that's around me? What does this difficult situation really mean? And let it become the journey. So download this thought, okay? Perfection is not the end goal. It's about progress. That's right. See, I believe that perfection is the lowest standard. And why do I say that? Because it's unachievable. You can never, ever, ever be perfect. If you think you're going to meet the perfect person or go to the perfect job or go to the perfect church or go to the perfect environment, guess what? When you get there, it's not going to be perfect anymore because you brought your baggage with you. And you know what? You got company. There's a lot of other imperfect people, but they're making progress. And that, my friend, is what it's all about, making progress. So I want to give you a few simple strategies to take these difficult experiences and turn them into true life transformation. Now, these are strategies that have been proven to make a difference. And because they're not just easy to implement, they're rooted in compassion. And this is what I want to say. So many of us are not compassionate enough for ourselves. And as we become more compassionate, we become more curious and we begin to encourage ourselves. So there's an exercise that I recommend. It's called the 3-minute reset. So what you do is you don't have to go to a corner, but you can go to an isolated area away from everything and everyone for 3 minutes and just close your eyes and breathe in deeply in through your nose. Hold it for a few seconds and then slowly exhale it. Now, there's a practice that I do. It's called box breathing. It's breathe in 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, then breathe out of your mouth 4 seconds and hold that for 4 seconds. And what it does is it makes you become present with the moment. So if you go into an isolated area, take this 3-minute reset, 3 minutes, it's a reset. And you would be amazed at the changes that take place. I'll do this constantly when I get on the phone with somebody that I don't even know, like an insurance agent or somebody calling me. And I can tell there's some stress in in their world. And I'm like, have you got a minute? And they're like, for what? And you can already sense that hyper sensitivity that is releasing. And I say, oh, you sound a little stressed. Maybe I could share something with you. And after we do that, they're like, wow, that reduced, I just feel light. And this is the fact. It reduces the cortisol that's in your body. So the 3-minute reset, got that? Okay, curiosity journaling. Start a daily practice of writing down the day's events, both the good and the challenging. But here's the twist. Instead of focusing on the problem, focus on the why of the problem. There's the difference. Because we can say, this is the worst day of my life. And we answer the question with, why is this the worst day of my life? Why did things go off course? Why didn't they go as well as I, number one, expected them to, number two, anticipated, and number three, needed them to definitely go in this direction? Why didn't they? And because is not an answer. Okay, just because, that's not an answer. And also another answer is, I don't know. Because when you say, I don't know, what you're saying is, I don't want to know. So as we investigate, we get curious, we come up with, why did this happen? And over time, you begin to separate and isolate, and you begin to see the patterns that create those things that throw your future days off differently. So the only way to change something is to change other elements of that. So as we journal, as we monitor, as we measure, now we have the tools that we're equipped with to do so. Here's the other thing, and if you've worked with me, you know this for a fact. Many wins on the celebration. Celebration, how often is celebration the missing element that makes everything change? It's a progress. And if you haven't done it up to this point, not for something big, but the small mini wins, like being grateful for something that didn't happen. How often do we take for granted the things that didn't happen to us, and then we magnify the other things that happened in our presence that could be happening for us, and just celebrate those mini wins? Like, hey, I got up on time. Yes. I made it to the bus on time. Yes. They ate their lunch. Yes. They came home with a smile on their face. Yes. They didn't get hurt. All of these mini wins changes what happens. As you anchor in these celebrations, it changes your body's chemistry, because your body says, I want to do that more. It's that dopamine fix, that natural dopamine fix that can take place. Rather than going to your gadget and looking for who's liked your post or who's given you a heart or sent you emojis, and get those superficial dopamine fixes, celebrate your own wins. If you have finally, I remember the first time I went live on Facebook. Oh my God. I would rather speak on stage in front of 500 people than get on Facebook. I don't know why I had that. Well, probably because I had to sit still and I had to hold the camera. I had to hold the phone. And once I did it, it was like, dang, that feels good. I like that. So it was celebrating those mini wins, and it gives you that power to go forward. So the next thing is the power of the pivot. The power, say that 5 times fast. The power of the pivot. Okay. So when things don't go planned, remember, you can always pivot. It's like your GPS, rerouting, and you go on with your day. So you had to make a detour. Life is full of detours. Sometimes those detours actually protect us. I remember working with a client, and I got the message, I hate these detours. And I've gotten this from several people. I hate these detours. And I said, well, what is it allowing you to see differently that you couldn't see before? And because it causes us to pause and look at life from a different perspective, whether it's high or low. You can't see where you are when you are where you are. Okay. Let me say it like this. If you're in a valley, it's easier to see that, hey, I don't want to be in this valley. And these are the things that are around me. I've backed up a little bit. And when you're on the top of the mountain, you're looking out at an expanse. You're seeing things in a different view, but you can't stay there. So as you reroute your day, as you reroute what's happening, let's say, when I worked for Boeing, there were people that worked at another aircraft company, Cessna. And I remember the week of Christmas, a lady that worked in the office at Cessna, 25 years, she got let go. They were downsizing and they were getting rid of people that, for one reason or another, loyalty wasn't everything. And it changed her life immediately. And it changed my perspective as well, saying that nothing is guaranteed. Even the week before Christmas, they did a shutdown, which was hard for me to understand, hard for me to accept. But what it did was, I don't know where it took that lady. I don't know what it did for her. It could have been the very thing that she needed to catapult her into really what she wanted to do all along. But I heard this story, and I've heard the story several times, that people just go and get a job, and they go to get it, and it's just to carry them through the winter. And 15 years later, they're still there. They're complaining about their life. They hate their job. And I ask why. You ask the question, why? Are you doing what you want? So this is the power of pivoting. Okay. Empower yourself and empower your child to pivot when these moments get a detour, when they don't make the team, when they don't get the cut, when they didn't make the grade. The grade's not going to define them when they get older. I can't tell you how many tests I failed. And obviously, it wasn't that important for me to pursue the thing that I love doing. Visualizing, here's the next step. Visualize your success together. So when we work together, when we're in community, that's where our strength is. And when we're doing it together with someone else, when we're having that connection, and we can visualize, this isn't rainbows and unicorns. This isn't any of that. This isn't pie in the sky kind of dreaming, wishing. Wishing is not a strategy, okay? But it is visualizing together, visualizing success, asking, what does it look like? I remember walking in the hallway at a Tony Robbins event, and this was one of my first events. And I remember this gal, this crew member. I actually have the ability to get into people's experience and into their world pretty quickly. I don't know many strangers, and I listen attentively, and I listened to this gal talk to me, and she just kind of unloaded a little bit, and she felt better. You could see her shoulders going back, and I was authentically sincere in wanting to know what was going on. And she said, I just don't know what I want to do with my life. And that's the real honesty. And that is what being part of this being a crew member at a Tony Robbins event. And, I'm helping other people with their transformation. And I just don't know, now that I know that there's a better life, I just don't know what that looks like. And I spoke to her and I said this: the reason that you don't know what it looks like is because God hasn't done it with anybody else. You're going to be done. This is going to be done through you in a unique manner. Now, at that time, she wasn't a believer. She didn't believe in God. She didn't think she needed any higher power other than herself. She thought that she was self-sufficient. And over a year, maybe 2 years, I began to see her post different things on Facebook. And she had a different view. So what I'm saying is visualize these things together. Take moments throughout the day and visualize, what does success look like? Understand their definition. What does it feel like if that comes to play? What does it look like? What would you be able to do if that happened? So as you visualize these, then you become empowered. So those are the few things that you can do. And ultimately, I want to thank you for joining with me today and taking these challenges, taking these difficulties that are not meant to you, but they're meant for you. What did I learn? What did I experience? And who am I now better because this is happening? So I want to thank you for sticking with me. For those of you that are watching the replay, for those of you that didn't get it, and you're like, he said at 8 o'clock, it's 8:15, it's not here. LinkedIn's canceled it. I'll repost this. What I want to say in closing is stay curious, stay compassionate, and above all, stay empowered. You've got this, and I'm here with you. If you want to go further, if you want to know more, I'm bringing these simple sessions on this platform. This is just a sample. If you want to get specific, you want to know more, you want to grow, then set up an appointment with me. Set up a session with me. Let's have a call. You can go to my website, 360lifewithoutlimits.com, and book a virtual coffee. Let's have a conversation. It's complimentary. There's no charge. I'm not asking for your credit card. There's absolutely nothing for sale in that call. But if you'd like to go further and get there faster than getting there by yourself and struggling through this, the best thing to do is work with somebody that has a plan and a process that helps you get there further and faster. So in the meantime, have an outstanding day, and I will see you at the next episode.